you're ready.
Oh, we're gone? So, happy quarantine. It's lame. Anyway, so I said we were gonna do that side control stuff, guys. I'm gonna run through like how I approach side control, my go-to stuff from side control. I'm hoping the video should be around 15 minutes long, but this would be a couple classes worth of content. So don't feel bad if you feel overwhelmed. Start at the beginning, drill a few of those things, and then just kind of break them into pieces. I don't have a fancy BJJ Fanatics thing where you can click the time slot for which move, but just, it's gonna be on YouTube, share it, it's free, let all your jiu-jitsu friends have it. So with side control, guys, a big thing I like to focus on, for one, is knee right on his tricep fat, like pinch him, because that's what Jesus wants. But other than that, guys, Brian, if you come look at my base, I'm never on both of my knees in side control. There's really no weight on Mike whatsoever, and he has a ton of space to hip escape and shrimp and connect frames because my femurs are creating all this space. So at any point when I'm in side control, one leg needs to be straight, preferably. You can do both legs, that's cool too. I like to do one at a time. The reason being is I always want to be controlling Mike's shoulders and his hips. So if I'm doing a good job of my side control and I have my leg down by his legs as my straight leg, my hip is to the mat, I'm sprawled out, putting pressure this way. When he goes to do the right thing and hip escape to defend the side control and get his guard back, I'm gonna army crawl. Don't get your guard back yet. Yes, sir. So I'm gonna army crawl and my knee goes in before he gets his guard back. And now this leg is straight. I still have a ton of pressure and I'm controlling heavy on his shoulders. So now, if he goes to move his shoulders away and start getting good frames, I switch again. And now I'm heavy with this shoulder. I'm always either controlling his hips or his shoulders. One of them is always flat. If he gets all the way on his hip and his shoulder right here, and I'm not sprawled out low, he's got all the room in the world to get underhooks, to frame and hip escape and all that kind of stuff. So one leg is always, always straight. Now, another big concept with side control that I think gets missed a lot or is underappreciated is that side control and north-south aren't different static positions. They're actually one dynamic position. And if you start thinking of them that way, you can include knee on bellies incorporated a lot in this drill too. But the idea is always to be going from side control, north-south, to the other side of side control, and just, you can always go around that way. It's a little safer than including mount in this transition, even though it's a great way to drill it. But if I'm in a really competitive match, say I'm in here training with one of the purples, browns, or blacks, and they're shrimping, they won't let me get mount. Every time I try to go to mount, they put me back in half guard, so I have to knee slice back to side. I'll just start going north-south side control, north-south side control, keeping a ton of pressure on them until they start making mistakes and opening things up, staying a step ahead the whole time. So if I'm here in side control, what I normally will do is I'll go ahead and get double overhooks on the arm, and I block his hip with my knee hand here so I can move this knee. So now I can sprawl out to my tiptoes, holding the hip. I'm on my tiptoes, and I come down here tight to this north-south position. I don't go north-south direct, like making a single vertical line with Mike, because it'd be too easy for him to bridge and re-roll me. I always come off at like a 45-ish degree angle. My hips are low, and I like to keep my head low. I don't come up here looking at what I'm doing. It gives them too much space. My ear is down low. Everything is down low tight. Now, as I'm ready to transition to the other side, say Mike is hip escaping, he's moving a lot, I got to worry about it. I get him flat, I bring my elbow over, and then I do a nice big long step. And that puts a ton of pressure, and I can start attacking this arm into a case of Katami situation, come back into a good side control, and sprawl my arm out, or my leg out, double overs, block the hip, north-south, boom, big heavy pressure steps, coming in nice and tight. You can also go to knee on belly. If I add knee on belly in, I'll go knee on belly, hands above the head, both knees go on the belly, feet close to my butt, windshield wiper, knee on belly, so boom, coming into case of Katami, side control, north-south, side control again. So those are, that drill with the concept of keeping one leg and hip down to the mat. I look at the kids class, we do army crawls to warm up every class where the kids come and everything's nice and low, and they just switch their hip and go forward. That is the same as applying pressure in side control. It's a little Mr. Miyagi magic for you. That's how you apply good pressure inside. Those transitions, along with applying pressure and other small little tricks, are how I'm gonna set up all the following submissions we're about to get into. So, there's two There's 2 chain series I do primarily from side control. I do one, excuse me, I got the hiccups like nobody's business. But I'll do one where I attack the far side arm and I involve a lot of straight arm locks, kimuras, spinning arm bars, etc. And then and that usually ends, even if I don't get the arm lock, I can take the back. I have a lot of good options there. Or since we're no-gi, I don't have the lapel to choke, I'll start with a lat choke. You can move into some not so friendly techniques as well as mounted guillotines, Ezekiel's, stuff like that. I rarely play arm triangles from side control. I usually go to mount to set up my arm triangles, but you can do cross-side arm triangles. Anyway, so the first series we'll do is gonna be what I do off the arm. And I'm just gonna go through all of it real quick, and then I might stop and break down like the more complex ones. But you can just remember, rewind, rewatch. I'm gonna go nice and slow and really try and highlight all the details as we go, so we don't have to burn everybody's time up a lot repeating myself. So, side control. What I like to do, guys, if I know I'm gonna start isolating the arm, he's doing a good job. He's got his frames in place. Go ahead and get your elbow on my hip. So I've got one leg straight. I'm putting the pressure on him. What I like to do, guys, is I'm gonna pick his elbow up and put my elbow on his belly and lay. It's super uncomfortable, and this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm not being a prick. But you can really cut the angle and pull them up and dig a lot of pressure into their belly, especially a good, here, I'm just stopping the tape, I'm sorry. A good tip when you're in side control and you're really just trying to cook people and wear them out, and you can tell when you break somebody because his head will hit the mat. And they go, you're breaking them. So if their head's up engaged, they're still in the fight. It's just a little psychological thing to look for. But every time he breathes out, I can apply a little more pressure. Let him breathe in. As he breathes out, a little more pressure, just like a boa constrictor would. Kurt Osander calls this concept Animal Planet. It's a good concept to apply. I do it all the time, as often as I can. But anyway, so I get this arm up here. Now, if he doesn't extend the arm already, I can start coming in here for the key lock. Relax.
Oh, my bad.
If I go for the key lock, I generally don't want the actual key lock. It's a pretty easy to defend technique at the higher levels. You don't see a ton of them. And I think that's mostly due to the setups, because the setups are fairly obvious. So as I go for the key lock, I actually start forcing the straight arm bar right out of the gate, because I don't want the key lock. I get defended a lot when I just shoot key locks, unless it's a lower rank. Now I can hit the straight arm bar by controlling the thumb. I flex my wrist like I'm reverse throttling a motorcycle right under the elbow, and I push his hand toward the mat. You okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to go super slow, but I didn't push yet. You okay?
Yeah.
So from here, a lot of times they're gonna defend this too, which is actually what I like. And they're gonna go hand down and here. It's cool. I'm gonna start isolating for a Kimura grip. Now, when I hit my Kimura grip, I never, ever, ever, ever let go because you make me. I let go of the Kimura grip because I want to. It's a super strong grip. Even if I don't finish the arm lock, which as I've lost weight and stuff like that, my game's had to change some. I'm not as strong as I used to be when I was 185, 200 pounds. So I don't get as many Kimura finishes as I want, but I use the grip to transition to a lot of places where I do get my finishes. So the grip itself is invaluable. Now, if I want to finish the Kimura right here, maybe I'm wrestling someone light enough or not as strong, I can do it. I'm gonna curl him to me, hand comes up to the mat, and then I just switch my hips. So my leg by his leg is going straight, and I can crank the Kimura. Now, it's hard for me normally to break that grip away from the body right here. If they're here and they're doing a good job pulling their elbow to their hip, it's kind of collapsing here, like that. I'm gonna have a hard time breaking that grip. So what I like to do is I can either keep this hand in like so, or I can maintain the Kimura grip. I'll maintain the Kimura grip this time. I'm gonna tiptoe around and roll them up the north-south, and then I can sit here. Now, once I get here, I'm not gonna stay here long because I don't like how this arm is free. This arm is trouble. So I'm gonna come and stab my heel into this space and gather the arm up. So now, if at any point I feel like he's giving me a problem, I can start working a triangle on here. To finish the Kimura, I'll go in, out, up, down. Even in the gi, if he's grabbing his collar, push the lock in, whip it away, out, down. You have to push it in to break the grip. If I just pull, it's like I'm setting a hook in a fish's mouth. If I push and then pull away, it doesn't have anything to hook back onto. Easy finish. Now, if we're still having trouble because he's bigger and stronger than me getting the finish, I have 3 options I go to from here. The first one, as I like in the gi a lot because I can grab my collar, but even if I just hold the Kimura grip here, I'm gonna lay almost like an S mount, sitting back. This leg comes over. I'm gonna cross. I'm gonna push the Kimura as I squeeze my knees together and get a brada plata. It's pretty rough. You okay? Mm-hmm. So just to check out the finish mechanics again, guys, I sit towards his belly. My belly button's pointing at his belly button. I have my normal Kimura grip. My feet cross. I pinch my knees, and that can finish most of the time. But if it doesn't, I crank the Kimura as well. If they don't tap, they'll let go, and their arm comes out. You just finish the Kimura still. Or start coming on the plata. Now, stay like where we are. From there, even if so maybe I don't go for the brada plata, what I also like to do is I'll go inside arm, elbow to elbow grip, especially in the gi. I can grab my own collar. If you can't, no gi, that's fine. You can just hold your shoulder or whatever you need to do. Spin, I pick up. So you see how I cut an angle, then my knee comes up and into his armpit right here. Then I sit down and finish my arm bar. Don't lay back until you get your knee in position. A lot of times I see people lose this because they're pulling up and they step over and they're pulling away like this. They're in a hurry. You're giving too much space. Everything stays tight. My hand is on the mat so I can pivot, pick myself up, keeping everything glued to him. Mike, do you feel space when I do this?
Not really.
And even if you go ahead and turn into me to defend, he might hitchhike. Just catch the thumb. Boom. If they're flexible or they keep moving, push the hand to the hip pocket, like so. Very slow and easy. Okay.
Like that slow and easy detail.
So each one has been a progression because they're too strong for me to finish my Kimura. The last one is the one I do, even if, so say Moose, we got Sam that trains here. When I go for a regular arm bar, the dude curls me like I'm a dumbbell or something. So you're in the same position. If for some reason, I'm right here, can't break the grip no matter what I do. I don't feel confident going for the brada plata or the arm bar because he's just a big, strong guy. Maybe I don't want to gas out trying it. What I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna come in and start trying to catch the hand right here. So I bring the Kimura grip up, peel the hand to where I'm grabbing the meat of the hand, like so, with this hand. You see where I'm at? Now I can start coming in here to set up a gift wrap grip. So now my hand is coming from behind his head to his wrist, and then I grab my wrist in a double wrist lock, a Kimura grip. My knee behind him now is right up against his body, and my foot is flat on the floor. I'm gonna step over. I don't go forward, it's gonna give him momentum. I sit, making my knee a wedge and pull him on to me. Now, my bottom leg comes across like a seat belt or a belt, and I stomp here, and now I've got the back take. So that's the series. If I decide that I'm going upper body, arm control stuff, that's the series I usually work. More often than not, I end up with back control or the arm lock once I get through the system and people kind of know what I'm doing if they're onto my game. If people aren't onto it, I finish the Kimura more often than not. So it just kind of depends. Well, here's the really fun stuff. Do you mind if I execution you?
Oh,
I don't have to.
Nicely.
I'll do it very slowly.
Nicely.
So
I was gonna whisper that to you at some point in the instructional. Please don't execution.
I was gonna ask you if I could show it. I've only done a couple of them, but they're just fun. So we'll start with the lat choke real quick. I'll show you how I was lucky. So Marcelo Garcia is probably most famous for the lat choke, but in Louisiana it was Aaron Davis for a while, and he lat choked me a lot. So I've been fortunate to figure out how he was doing it and then adjust it for, you know, not silverback mutant gorillas like myself. So same thing as before, guys. I'm in this good side control. I have a leg straight. I get double overhooks. My hand comes in the hip. Now, as I start to sprawl my hip down and walk north-south, I'm gonna wrap around his head like so, and I scoop down. Now, when I get around his head, this is what's underneath his neck. This thumb is pointed up and it's on the side of his neck. And I'm gonna end up grabbing the meat in my hand if I use both hands, but I usually finish this choke one-handed. You're okay right here. So when I get this grip, guys, I'm not up here looking at what I'm doing. If I'm watching my work, I'm never gonna get this choke, and he's usually gonna escape and reverse you and make you look stupid. I'm looking away from him. My ear is down low. This hand is still controlling his hip so he can't turn it back into me. Go ahead. It's not gonna follow me. I don't want that hip following me. Brian, you can come on this side if you need to. But now my legs are sprawled out just like we talked about with that good side control. All I'm gonna do is sprawl myself down into the mat and backwards away from him. So I'm shooting my hips into the mat and away from Mike. At the same time, I'm slowly gonna squeeze like I'm giving him a hug with my forehead going to the mat. And it's super tight, super easy finish choke. People get impatient with this choke and they try and go straight back and stay on their knees and they lose a lot of, they give a lot of space. I'm just trying to smush all my body weight into my lat as I sprawl down, and as I scoot back, it picks his chin up, setting the choke in deeper, just like jerking a hook in a fish's mouth. And then I can just squeeze right there. Now, if they're super tough and I can't finish it one-handed, I like to turn my palm in, kind of like this, facing their neck, and I'll get another grip, and then I squeeze and push. So it's kind of like hitting a low elbow guillotine. I'll go here, and I'll squeeze and push everything. That's if I have to use two hands, which is rare. Normally, if I don't get the lat choke one-handed, I missed it altogether. I need to abandon it if they've defended something, because I just generally hit it one-handed if the setup works that way for me. You okay? It's one you have to feel a lot. Excuse me. It's not a submission that like you can just see an arm bar. Okay, I just pull the arm straight and I do it. You need to be in the position. You need to get a lot of reps in. Go for it live and feel how your body relates to the position. Some of us have kind of different angles we use for applying pressure. Is one of those that you got to feel as well as know the details on. So you need to rep this one a lot. Now, it's also super easy to defend. Here's how you defend the lat choke. Turn your chin into their ribs, okay? So if I'm here and Mike starts kind of turning his chin into my ribs, it's okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push him sideways with my ribs and sink back down. Now that's not comfortable for Mike, but that's okay. We're gonna do the executioner now, by the way. Okay. Mike, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it so slow and easy, buddy. Now, I stole this from Brandon McCaffrey at 10th Planet. We were lucky enough to go up there and train with him, and he did it to several people that went with us. And we do it here sometimes now. It's a fun move. It's definitely just a neck crank. Be nice to your training partners. Don't spaz out and do this. But I like to take, the way I've set it up more times than not when I've gone for it, is with this arm right here, I come in and catch the elbow. I'm gonna start sliding up, sitting back until I get here, like roll. So I roll him this way. I'm trying to be easy with Mike because I can tell he's scared. I get my grip and then I just arch and I would finish it. Be nice to people if you go for that. It's not a nice thing. And I wouldn't be mad if nobody, like white belts, that's not for you. It's like purple, brown, and black just because of common sense reasons. Don't be spazzing out executioner and people. The last thing I normally go for is gonna lead me to a mounted guillotine / mounted triangle. I don't only get the guillotine, but the triangle's pretty fun too. So if I'm here and I'm working this lat choke, and Mike is kind of doing a good job. I'm not really finishing it, but he's not escaping. We're just kind of stalemating back and forth. It's okay. I'm gonna do the same thing I was doing to set up the executioner with a slightly different detail. So I'm gonna catch the elbow, but instead of staying here as I try to set the executioner, I'm gonna slide in to like a reverse case of Katami position with this foot here. My legs are here, and I've got good weight on his head. And like, do you feel comfortable? So here's the secret. I'm gonna go to that high wrist position that if you've watched any of Professor Tim's instructionals or John Danaher's high elbow system or front headlock system, you see like the high wrist position leading to high elbow guillotines and just better guillotine finishes. So what I do to get to that high elbow position, watch your own, buddy. Brian, come over here, buddy. Is my tricep is what's in the way, keeping my hand where I need it to not go, my elbow and my tricep. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flop sideways over Mike, laying the flat of my arm on the mat. As I do, my hand goes deeper around his head. And I get the chin strap normally. By normally, I mean I get the chin strap. So I'm here, I got all the way over to that chin strap position. I step over, secure my hands. He's already tapping, so I'm gonna go nice and easy now, but I secure my hands to the high elbow, drop my knee, my forehead goes on the mat, and I can hip in to finish. If he starts using a hand to push and defend, like so, I'll control, step over his other arm. You can pick him up. And start working triangles. So just easy things like that. I know that's a lot. That's my go-to blanket approach to side control. I don't do anything too crazy. White belts and blue belts. This is bread and butter stuff right now. You should absolutely be working your mount. You should absolutely be working to get to back control to better positions. You have a lot of control and options there. But as far as wins that are going to be statistically easy for you to achieve at the level you're at, side control is the place to be. It's an easier place to control. It's easier to open up opportunities. And it's a good place to start. I'm not saying that should be the end of your game, but side control, learning and mastering side control carried me from white to purple belt, competitively, etc. Not that I was a world-class competitor, but just it gave me a base. I understood side control. I had a place to work. I knew if I got to side control, I would be okay. It's an easy place to master it. It's a good place to start. Os.